Hey guys, I hope you're doing really well. I am back. I think I took a 2-week break. It might have been 3 weeks, but I just kind of needed a little bit of a break. Sometimes I do. I try to be consistent, but sometimes it's kind of like, okay, I need to take a step back because I'm getting burned out. And when I'm burned out, like you guys won't like that. So just as a reminder, obviously none of this is medical advice. I am not a doctor, nor do I make any claims to be. I'm just kind of like a hormone nerd, metabolism nerd. And I've experimented with a lot. I've worked with a few people, I should say a lot of people. And this is kind of based on just like my experience and my research. Got some barbecue sauce on my arm. And I hope that you can kind of use some of this information to springboard your own research and figure out how it applies to you in your life. Let's get started. And I'm kind of doing questions first come, first serve. We're getting to a point where like I'm just not able to hit all the questions in a live. So I'm just going to do my best to get through them. And hopefully I can get through most of them. I noticed last week someone said something about you coming out with the gut healing course. When, cost? Will this also give access to your Fully Nourished Facebook group as well? Yeah, so I am working on a gut course. Now I have like no launch date. I'm not giving any launch dates because when I do, like you guys are always like, when is it coming out? When is it coming out? And this is the kind of stuff that just like really truly can't be rushed. And you guys know I take a lot of pride in my work, and I really want the information that I share with you to be accurate and to give you all the tools you need. So the gut program will be out when it's out. There's going to be some other offerings happening before then. So of course that will be announced on Instagram, but I don't like to like formally announce that stuff until I'm like well underway with the project, because then I start to get questions, and like of course, because I love you guys, I like want to deliver, and I feel pressure to deliver, and I don't want to rush things. So I wish I could like say, oh, it'll be out this time, but I just haven't given a launch date yet, just because I truly don't know when it's going to be finished. But I will announce it on Instagram and via email when it's starting to get close. So like anything that is coming out, like you're not going to miss it. Like it's not like you're going to be like, oh my gosh, surprise. And it will probably have its own community. We're still trying to decide that. Hi, good to see you back. Been FN for about 8 months now. Seriously, I have barbecue sauce. Plus had a ton of improvements, but I did take a Plan B twice a couple months ago and have noticed I've taken many steps backward. Panic attacks, BV, low temps, high pulses. What would you recommend? I can't really recommend anything. I would just suggest like looking at what it's doing to the body. So it is a lot of synthetic hormones, and so there is going to be factor there. So just dig a little deeper into what and then how they're possibly affecting the body. I believe they're levonorgestrel, if I'm saying that correctly, but I could be wrong. I think they're progestins, just a higher dose. So again, that's what I believe. And so just kind of do some digging on how that could be affecting hormones, the liver. I would say similar concepts to the birth control pill probably apply. Is it Ona's progesterone oil or cream the one you use to rub on your gums? Yeah, I do Ona's progesterone oil most of the time. They just came out with a new like MCT oil one or coconut oil one. I haven't tried it yet, so some people have said they were trying that. Progest-E is also good. I know Forever Healthy Hair, Noelle Covery's brand, just came out with a Progest-E. Or I think it's called Progest Plus, which is probably pretty good as well. So I haven't tried those. But yes, I use Ona's typically. What would you say the cause would be for pale, light gray colored stool? Been getting worse since been on this diet. Well, what diet, because there's no diet. So that's like my first like red flag when somebody says like, I've been on this diet and I'm getting worse. And I'm like, what are you doing? Because this diet is really just supporting the body and supporting the metabolism by giving it enough protein, carbs, and fat. So where did you come from? What did you shift to? And how fast did you shift? And also, have you added things in just like insane amounts all at once? That's usually not a great idea. But I would say like check in with gallbladder health, check in with those types of things. Usually bile is what makes stools brown. And so when bile's not flowing, that can be an issue. But that's just one thing to check into. I missed your live at 5. Glad you're back. Should grass-fed meat be one of my first changes or focus first on eating regularly? I usually recommend like just eating regularly first and making sure you're getting enough protein, carbs, and fats. And obviously from the right sources in regards to fats specifically. Quality of our food sometimes is not something that we can change very quickly, or we just like, we're not in a financial place to change the quality of our food. So I think it's just best to get the best quality that we can afford at the time. But in reality, our eating habits, meaning like how much we're eating and if we're eating, is going to affect our health way more than if our beef is like organic versus grass-fed. You know what I mean? So it's, no amount of eating grass-fed beef, if you're eating it like, if you're eating once a day, is gonna help lower stress hormones. So I hope that makes sense. I think our eating habits sometimes are actually more important than like obsessing about what we're eating and the quality of what we're eating. Tell me all your feelings about coffee enemas. Have you done them? Do you think they could be helpful for lack of bile production? Yeah, I love coffee enemas. Like I'm a big outspoken person about that. Like I think that coffee enemas were one of the things that helped me when I was first really, really sick. But that being said, like just because I love something doesn't mean it's right for everyone. Some people have really low electrolytes and it can deplete electrolytes. Some people like are just not in a place where they can handle them. So with that being said, just because I love them doesn't mean they're right for everybody. But I think that they are incredibly supportive to like liver and bile, specifically bile flow. And worked, like I like to use them in conjunction with castor oil packs. Like that's probably one of my favorite combinations to really like start working on the liver and the gallbladder. Now, is that going to be the only thing? No, I like to use it in conjunction with nourishing myself, because obviously like nothing can outrun like a non-nourishing diet. But coffee enemas and castor oil packs are some of my favorite like extra added supports. Although it's not a good sign to have heavy, long periods, wouldn't that at least help with ridding iron? Yes, a lot of people who are like very iron overloaded tend to bleed very heavily. And I think in part, it's to get rid of some iron. It makes me wonder. Obviously, there's a lot of studies that like are going to dig into that, but it does typically follow a pattern. So yes, that's a good observation. Will supplementing progesterone make you less likely to manufacture your own? So you guys know that I think that progesterone can be a great tool, but I don't think that it's like the end all be all. And I truly encourage people to try to achieve their goals without it. But some people are stuck in this like super vicious cycle of stress. And even when they start like nourishing their body and focusing on minerals and focusing on all their building blocks, like lowering their stress levels, they still can't like get themselves ovulating, or their cycles are still like very heavy, or they want to experiment with progesterone. And I totally understand that. It's just important to know that progesterone doesn't work the same for everybody. For some people it can really, really lower stress, but it is a precursor to cortisol. So if you're still stuck in a stress response and you're still really stressed out, sometimes progesterone can actually work against you. So it just really depends on the person. It depends on your lifestyle. And this is why I highly recommend like implementing nourishing principles for 3 to 6 months before even considering progesterone, just because, unless of course your doctor is saying to do it or whatever. But if you're thinking of experimenting with it on your own, it's a good idea to be cautious. Now, a lot of women have used progesterone to get themselves ovulating again. So, we obviously only make progesterone when we ovulate. So, it is kind of one of those things where some women say that it does help them. And then some women, when they take it too early, they say that it stops them from ovulating. So for me, I always make sure I ovulate before I supplement it. So I don't start supplementing it until after I ovulate to make sure that I'm starting to produce my own. And then if I feel like I need a boost, which I'm pretty good at reading my body, and you guys are always like, how do I know if I need a boost? And I'm just like, comes with just practice, like experimentation and practice. I notice like sometimes a little anxious or not sleeping during my luteal phase. And that's usually a sign that I'm maybe a little bit more stressed out than usual and could use a little progesterone boost. But if we're using progesterone before we ovulate, then yeah, it's going to stop us from manufacturing our own if the progesterone is stopping ovulation from occurring. What do you think of turmeric for reducing inflammation? The reason that turmeric reduces inflammation is because it's an iron chelator. And so iron is like at the root cause of most inflammation. And so for some people, it's enough to like lower some inflammation. And for some people, it doesn't work very much at all because iron overload isn't going to be fixed by an herb. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my opinion on it. Is breast pain, nibbling all over after ovulation a sign of progesterone or estrogen dominance? It could be both. Like usually some people say that progesterone is more like puffy nipples, whereas estrogen is more like sore and achy. That's kind of what I've heard. But a lot of the information that is available, like a lot of information I find on progesterone is just like not accurate because a lot of people blame progesterone for what's actually being caused by poor progesterone production. So people who are estrogen dominant are saying like, well, I ovulated and I made progesterone. And so therefore my symptoms must be because of progesterone, and not realizing that it's most likely that they didn't make enough progesterone or they're estrogen dominant and their liver's really like not detoxifying hormones well. But if somebody's supplementing progesterone and they have like nipple pain, it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, like the commonsensical like assumption should be that, okay, it's probably causing that. But the best way to kind of know would actually be to test your hormone levels. But usually like breast pain is estrogen. In your opinion, if a woman's body has not been producing enough progesterone to carry a baby past 10 weeks, would you personally consider supplementing with onus progesterone during her luteal phase? So I am conflicted about this information because, of course, I usually encourage women to actually do that under the supervision of a doctor. I personally, like my personal opinion on it is if the body is so stressed out, why are we trying to force it to have a baby when we don't even have enough minerals to regulate our hormones? We don't build a baby out of thin air. And remember, we give our baby 10% of them are minerals and nutrients. But if we don't have that, our baby doesn't get that. And so sometimes I encourage women to like take a step back and say like, if the body's saying no, could it be that the body's possibly trying to protect you and protect the baby? It's just an alternate perspective. It's the way that I personally look at it. It's my personal opinion. And, supplementing progesterone might get you through that first trimester, but did it fix the fact that you didn't have the right nutrients to pass along? And that's where like I think a lot of women are not getting the fact that just because we can get pregnant doesn't mean the pregnancy is going to go well, or that we have all the nutrients we want to, we would want to provide our child. We might not just have them. And that's what the body's trying to tell us. So it's just an alternate perspective. But I personally would be assessing like, am I in this place, or should I really focus on nourishing my body, giving myself some time and consistency, and then waiting till my body says yes? And that's just what I would personally do. That's not advice for you. What's the right time to start losing weight? My health already improved so much. My body changed a lot, just balancing my hormones. I look more slim, but I still carry weight around my belly. Yeah. I mean, I think at any point, like I personally, when I'm trying, like I am personally in a personal weight loss journey right now. I'm trying to lose some weight. I just was super stressed the past 2 years and chose nourishment over maintaining my fitness. I'm still fit, but I don't look it. And that's totally okay. However, I did get to a point where I was like, okay, I'm kind of ready. And usually when you're stressed, you carry most of your weight in your belly. Your body's trying to protect those vital organs. So I think like I truly go by all the metabolic markers. Like, am I sleeping well? Am I feeling good throughout the day? Like, how's my mood? Am I getting an afternoon slump or not? How's my period? Like, am I ovulating? Like, you just go by metabolic markers. And if you feel like you're in a really good place, there's no harm in just starting to add some workouts in and just keep paying attention to your body. It's not like all of the information we've learned just goes out the window. We obviously can say like, okay, I'm actually not adjusting to these workouts very well. I'm going to like take a step back, or like, oh, I'm feeling really awesome. And like, and I personally think that like, if we're not strength training or working out, then adding in strength training before trying to cut calories is usually a good idea. Also, like, you guys know, when somebody's trying to lose weight, I'm actually a big fan of loosely tracking macros, because some people just are eating way too much fat and not enough protein. And that simple swap of getting protein up and getting carbs a little higher and fats a little lower actually just helps them lose some fat with the addition of strength training. And so, like I always say, lower your calories just as much as you need in order to lose the weight. But sometimes just building muscle helps you lose the weight. It's going to burn the fat while you sleep, so to speak. The muscles have an affinity for free fatty acids, so it increases your metabolic rate at rest. So it might not lead to that like rapid weight loss that you so desire, but over time, you're going to be able to maintain a little less of a body fat percentage. So when is the right time? There's no perfect time, but it's probably not a good idea to do it when you're in a really stressful season of life, when your metabolic markers are saying absolutely not, and your body's feeling really, really stressed out. Those are some like good reasons. But my coach, Libby Westcomb, she has some great information on like, are you ready for a cut, or are you ready for a fat loss phase, on her Instagram. I personally, she's like my macro coach, so she sets my macros, and we work kind of back and forth to find that perfect balance. And then I also do like her program includes a strength training program as well. So yeah, I do think that there is a time and a place, and sometimes it's just not correct. Like, I'll use myself for an example. I attempted to do a cut, meaning like we attempted to lower my calories a couple of weeks ago. And I immediately started getting constipated, and I immediately started feeling just like very tired, exhausted, low energy. And I was like, nope. I gave myself like a week and a half, and it was like, nope, I'm starving. Like, I'm really hungry. And my body's just like, I'm not sleeping well, and I'm constipated. Like, my digestion's not working well. And so I told her like, hey, I would like to do this an alternate way. It may take a little bit longer, but I do not want to do a cut. And she like totally agreed with me and said like, okay, we're going to shift our focus. We're going to focus on like strength training harder, and actually possibly, just put me in at least at my maintenance, but I'd actually put myself at a surplus so that I can start to build some muscle, and then it can burn some fat at rest. So there are multiple ways to go about it. It just depends on what type of corners you want to cut. Some people really want to cut corners, and some people want to do it the correct way and like really support their metabolism. There's no right or wrong way. It's just kind of what your body can handle, and you know yourself better than anyone else. Hey Jess, missed you in the lives. I missed you guys too. I hope you're doing well. I'm doing great. Where do you purchase flowers of sulfur, and how do you use it for the scalp? I think I purchased it from some like random, I'm trying to think, some random store. Like, I just typed in flowers of sulfur or sulfur powder online, and it came up, it was like, not Frontier Co-op. It was like another like weird store. Like a country store that just sold like bulk products, and I had to buy it in bulk. It was kind of stupid, but I still have like a huge bag of it, and I just like literally like mixed it with water and like made like a little rinse. I usually just like take this huge cup, like whenever I do my apple cider vinegar scalp rinses or like mineral rinses, I just take like this big plastic cup of water and, mix it in, and then just dump it over my scalp and let it kind of like sit while I massage it into my scalp. That's kind of how I do it. I don't think there's like really a perfect way. And then also during the first trimester. Yeah, when it comes to progesterone supplementation, like it's very important to do it under the supervision of a doctor. But if you get pregnant while you're on progesterone, like you don't want to stop it. That's unless you're like you gotta talk to your doctor or your midwife about that. Because if you do, like a lot of women know not to do that. Because if you stop it, it can cause a miscarriage. How to help ease or even eliminate allergies and histamine sensitivities while eating this way. Again, like eating this way, you guys always say this, like this diet, eating this way. And I'm like, what are you eating and where did you come from? A lot of women are just going from eating so differently and then they just like start pounding the ice cream and all the dairy and all the fruit and all the things. And their body is screaming like, stop, slow down. And so it's super important, first of all, like I have no idea where you came from and I have no idea where you have ended up, like what you're doing now day to day. So I can't like say like, do this, but it's really important to assess like, did we go too fast? Like, we just need to implement like the protein, carb, fat rule or guideline and really work to lower stress using foods that work for us. And then, make sure we're doing raw carrot salad because when we have estrogen issues, gut issues, iron issues, we're going to have histamine issues. It's just a matter of fact. And so, it's about slowly working on these issues, which require nutrients, minerals, specifically like vitamin A, minerals like magnesium, nutrients like vitamin C. These are not going to be like replenished overnight. And so while we're working on getting the nutrients we need, we have to, gradually change our habits in a way that our body can adjust to. I do like doing castor oil packs every day can be a great way to like lower some histamine because it increases quercetin. I like Nature's Sunshine, Histablock. But in reality, like nothing's going to fix it. It can help us manage the symptoms until we really work on balance. Usually it's mostly balance of our stress and balance of nutrients. Would you ever supplement elk antlers, benefits to it? I personally wouldn't. I know it's like typically used as a male supplement, but of course, like some females can benefit from it as well. I think it's used to boost testosterone, but I'm not sure. I've tried a lot of supplements in my lifetime, so I'm not like against using it. I've just never come across like a compelling reason to try it. But I would be curious as to how it would affect like testosterone. And also like sometimes women can really tell if their testosterone levels are increased because they like start to feel rage. So I just would be curious as to how it would affect hormones. If one maintained eating fully nourished, would that help mitigate any side effects from the copper IUD? I can't say yes or no. I mean, the copper IUD, it is non-bioavailable copper. And so therefore, like, it does increase our need for a lot of different minerals and nutrients. But I think like everyone's decision is personal based on like what they need to do in their life. Like, for example, if you need something and you don't want to do the birth control pill anymore, that might be a better option for you. Like that might be your best option. So I think we need to weigh all of the factors in our life, including our stressors around birth control, and pick the best that works for us. But is fully nourished going to mitigate all the effects from the copper IUD? Absolutely not. How to increase copper when you're super histamine sensitive. Whole foods vitamin C, not ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid will blow up your ceruloplasmin, which is that enzyme that helps actually make copper bioavailable. So what increases ceruloplasmin is whole foods, vitamin C, like camu powder, Acerola cherry, those types of things. For some people who have histamine, they need to supplement it because they cannot like do citrus and all that kind of stuff. And then we also need to get our retinol good. So retinol is what's the vitamin A found in animal foods like liver, cream, butter, egg yolks, and even sometimes cod liver oil can be helpful. Now, be careful of the brand. I don't like all brands. Only actually like Rosita's just because it's cold pressed, like it's never heated. And it comes frozen. But yeah, we really want to work on our vitamin A levels, our whole foods vitamin C, and then our magnesium. Magnesium is the most important thing. Hi, Jess. Been supporting my metabolism for about 3 months now and just started getting acid reflux. Do you know what could contribute to this sudden appearance? Thank you. Sometimes people are eating things that are not working for them. So just because something is metabolic or because other people that you're following are supporting their metabolism and eating all of XYZ doesn't mean that you can eat all of XYZ right away. And so some people already have like really like intestinal irritation or bacterial overgrowth, and that needs to be worked on for a bit before they just start pounding like acidic foods like OJ and stuff. I'm not saying that's you. I'm just kind of bringing something to people's awareness because I often just see people go so fast. Like they just go from eating like a vegan diet one day or like very low carb paleo, like pounding the Haagen-Dazs and the OJ. And I know the body stand that. I'm not compassionate towards the once you implement those foods again, your body's just like, please give me more. But sometimes if we go too fast and our systems are so imbalanced that it can't tolerate that, that's when these problems can occur. So, some simple things that we can do to like support our stomach acid would be making sure we're getting plenty of sodium and potassium, making sure we are like sometimes people will do some diluted apple cider vinegar at meals. Make sure it's diluted. Some people like to do like digestive bitters. Some people occasionally can benefit from digestive enzymes, but remember those are all band-aids. We have to ask ourselves why we're getting low stomach acid, and this is often because of stress. So remember, there is that period of time when you lower your stress hormones and start working on your metabolism that stress is now low and the metabolism is still kind of sluggish. And so that is really where sometimes the problems can start to occur. You can have inflammation, gut irritation, all that kind of stuff. But we really do need to make sure we're doing like lots of gelatin and collagen, bone broth, gummies, those types of things. Specifically, the more gelatinous foods, like the actual texture of like Jell-O can be very soothing. And some women actually find a lot of benefit from like eating a square of Jell-O or some bone broth before every meal. I know it can be tedious, but hang in there. And then also just supporting that stomach acid and also that stress. Hey, Jess, do you have any knowledge about arthritis? I rely on MSM to function with my knee, and I've been doing FN for a while, but it hasn't made a big difference to how it feels, sadly. Iron overload. Highly recommend taking the Root Cause Protocol 101 class on just like understanding iron overload and its connection to inflammation. It's huge. It's insane. But that is interesting that MSM works for you. That's awesome that you found that. Could taking malate during the day and glycinate at night potentially cause panic attacks, anxiety? Isn't mag supposed to help regulate the nervous system? It can be helpful unless you are very sodium and potassium deficient. Then some people actually feel more hyped up and actually more almost stimulated. So don't go crazy with magnesium if you don't do well with it. And it might be a good idea to like pull back and make sure you're getting plenty of potassium and sodium. So if you tend to be like a stressor or someone who's like very adrenally driven, most of those types of people are very like sodium and potassium deficient, and so they'll implement magnesium too fast, and then they'll get that kind of like almost like overly stimulated feeling. It's kind of hard to explain unless you felt it. My doctor has me on a low dose of lithium and 5 milligrams of methylfolate a day for anxiety. Do you have any experience with those supplements? Not necessarily. I mean, like methylfolate, B vitamin. Some people who are low in lithium benefit from lithium, but if somebody's not low, then it doesn't really do anything. I'm having extreme period pain right now, and I think it's endo. I'm sorry. Would you ever get LASIK eye surgery? You know, I want to, and I'm afraid. And the reason why I'm afraid is because I don't know how it affects the body's response to light. And so that's like what really makes me nervous. And I just don't know. I haven't been able to find anyone that really talks about that, like the long-term effects. So yeah, that is a good question. I'm honestly not sure. Hi, Jess. Welcome back. I've been recently diagnosed with endometriosis. I'm sorry. Doc says I need surgery. Is there a way for me to get rid of them naturally? I've been taking serapeptase and NAC because I've read, I'm assuming that those help or something like that. I don't see the second comment. You know, it's important to kind of assess like what your situation is because everybody is so different. And some people, you know, some people are far along and need it, but I have heard of people who have decided to go an alternate route and have seen great success. So it's kind of one of those things where, you know, you kind of want to do your research and kind of assess like where you're at, but not feel so pressured into making a decision very quickly. So it's always a good idea to like listen to our guts and do our own research and kind of just also not feel any like shame in choosing either route. You know what I mean? Like I think some people just truly need the surgery and that's okay. What supplements are your must-haves? Oh, my must-haves? Magnesium for sure. I love the Adrenal cocktail, the Jigsaw one. Like it's just so easy. I'm trying to think what else. Vitamin E, like I like vitamin E. Grass-fed beef liver, like desiccated if I'm not doing like liver, fresh liver that day. Shilajit, I like Shilajit too. But those are kind of like my like must-haves. I mean, do I need them? No. Do I like them? Yeah. Hope you're doing well. Recently, I've been researching EMFs in the Blue Shield. The technology seems pretty legit. Do you have one or would invest in one in the future? Yeah, I have one. I have the like little cube, the one that whatever, like they give you like a range of what it covers. And yeah, I have one. Did I notice like the fun effects that everyone talks about? No, I wish I did. Like people will say like, oh, you can get intense detox effects. And I was like waiting for that. Did I get those? No, but I have one. And yeah, I mean, the technology does seem very legit. One thing that surprised me is when I got it, it was like so light. Like I was like, you know, like, oh no. But I plugged it in and I have it, you know, is it doing anything? Heck if I know, but it makes me feel better about myself. That's for sure. Have you ever followed the root cause protocol? Is there anything you wouldn't do that he recommends? Yeah, I actually am following it right now, and I'm actually in the root cause protocol training to become an RPC. It's root cause RCPC. Sorry, a root cause protocol consultant. Yeah, it's so fascinating. I'm learning so much about iron overload. It's like blowing my mind, and the fact that like how important copper is for regulating the metabolism. And it just like emphasizes like the importance of those fat soluble vitamins and minerals as well. But yeah, I love it. My temperatures have been, oh, and I should say that like I do think that it's very important when doing the root cause protocol to be conscious of brands you're using. They pick very specific brands for very specific reasons. And it's not just because they're trying to be jerks about it. My temperatures have been sky high after 6 months of following your guidelines. Before I was lucky if I broke 98 in the afternoon. Hopefully baby comes next. That's awesome. How are your pulses like in relationship to that? But that's awesome that you've seen such high temps. Just make sure they're not from stress. Are you really only 27? You have gone through a lot and are very wise beyond your years. Yes, I am only 27. Thoughts on drinking long-term reverse osmosis water that is highly alkaline? The pristine hydro also provides higher pH water as well, just with added magnesium and silica. I think, you know, I don't obsess about the details in regards to in regards to water. It's important for water to be as clean as possible, but in reality, you're not going to be able to really find perfect water. I know a lot of people love the pristine hydro. I personally don't have one. I have a reverse osmosis that remineralizes, but I also add some trace mineral drops, just because it is important to have minerals in your water. And I've seen a lot of people who do like the Berkey or reverse osmosis, and they don't realize that they're pulling so much of their minerals out of their water that they're drinking hungry water, or the like water that doesn't really hydrate their cells. So I think the mineral addition is actually more important than anything else. Highly alkaline, I don't stress too much about it. Like, you know, the only thing about alkalinity is that, like, or alkaline water, is that the digestive tract is supposed to be acidic. So if you're doing tons of like alkaline substances, or, you know, substances that are going to neutralize acid, then sometimes it can impair digestion. Some people are more sensitive to it than others. But it is something to kind of pay attention to. How often do you recommend rebounding? Can too much be stressful for the body? I mean, too much of anything can be stressful. Like, let's just be real here. Like, there are people, you know, if you just sat there and rebounded for like 3 hours, of course you're going to be stressed out. It is fun though. I have to admit that. How much do I recommend it? I mean, I don't know. Like, it's a good idea to support our lymph system every single day. That could be through like walking or body brushing. But I'll sometimes just like hop on when I need a little bit of a break for like 10 or 15 minutes. But I know people that do like a whole rebounding workout that's like an hour long. So I think it just depends. Like, if you're just using it for like some de-stressing and some lymph drainage, it's probably going to be different than if you're using it for working out. Will this style of pro-metabolic eating be enough to get rid of SIBO, bloating, gut issues, or should you target this specifically with other steps? It just depends. I personally, like, everyone's very different. For some people, they truly do need to dive deeper into what is causing their gut issues. But I can tell you this, that no amount of like gut work, herbs, all that kind of stuff is going to fix the fact that we're super stressed out, and we have super bad mineral imbalances. That's really where I think the focus should be for people who have gut issues, is like, get the food good and then get the minerals good. Like, don't overlook them. I think some of us think like, oh, I gotta fix my gut first. And I'm like, no, the gut is going to really respond to the nervous system, and the nervous system is obviously going to respond to all of our stressors, and mineral imbalance is a huge stressor. So, and then trauma is something that also should be explored. I think a lot of people don't realize that like we store emotions in our body. And so like if we have a pit in our stomach, or we're tight in a certain area, or liver hurts or whatever, a lot of times that can just be emotions that are stored up. And so that's where like trauma work, or like trigger point therapy, or even like EFT, emotional freedom technique, can really come in handy, because a lot of people's gut issues are because their gut is literally a knot from stuffing all their crap down. You know what I mean? So there are a lot of factors to gut health that aren't just food, and no amount of like herbs are going to fix it. Now, can herbs help? For sure. Can gut support work or help? For sure. But I've seen people who have literally spent so much money on like so many gut protocols and are no better than before. And I think there's just more to gut health than just, just that. But is pro-metabolic eating enough? I can't say yes or no. Like, for some people, it works very well because their gut problems were due to just very poor metabolisms, not supporting their body. Their body was really stressed out. Some people really have some more serious issues that need to be worked out. My boyfriend has what looks like hives on his back. They get very itchy at night usually. Where would you start in trying to figure out what could cause this? I mean, I would be like curious as to what factors. I always look at patterns, like when stuff like that's happening. Like, what are the patterns? Like, is it after a specific food? Is it at night? Histamine issues can get worse at night, and histamine is what drives hives. So, usually histamine can be the problem. But why is the histamine high? Is it gut issues? Like, is there other like digestion is a problem, or stress is a problem? Did stress bring it on? I'm always tracking back to like, when did something come on? And people are like, oh, I think it was like 3 months ago, or whatever, let's just use that as an example. And then you're like, okay, what was going on 3 months ago? And they're like, well, actually I was like pretty stressed out, and, blah, blah, blah. So when you start to like track back to when something happens, oftentimes you can find that there was like a root cause of stress, which of course is going to drive, internal stress, metabolic stress, and loss of minerals. And that's really where imbalances can occur. Do you have a pre and post sun care routine, topically and internally? Oh, that's a good question. I try to not really overexpose myself. Like I get a decent amount of sun just daily. Like I take my dog on a walk for an hour in the morning. So morning sun and then like evening or afternoon sun. And so like I often am using a hat, which is like a wide brimmed hat, like the one I did in my reel. If you saw my reel, that's like my dog walking hat. And like I try to just get like some smart sun exposure. So, some on your forearms, your chest, a little bit on your face is really all you need. But obviously the face can like increase some aging. So I try to just be smart about my face sun exposure. But you guys are probably well aware, like I don't do a lot of sunscreen. I don't know if I should or not. Like I'm not somebody that's like, oh my gosh, I got to do that. I know a lot of people say to do it. Like Cosmo Beauty, Stephanie, she uses Pipette sunscreen, and I probably will get some for the summertime. I've also been eyeing like Ilia Beauty's like serum based foundation, and I know it has some SPF in it. So I may experiment with some like SPF containing stuff during the summer, just because like the California sun is just so harsh. But like my after sun, I mean, usually like I'll do grass-fed beef tallow or some type of like nourishing. And if, the goal is to never get burned. So if we're getting burned, we've gone too far. And that's really where, like, if we're going to spend all day in the sun, like I personally am going to put some sunscreen on. If I know I'm just going to go out for like an hour and I can probably like put a hat on after 20 minutes, then I probably won't. It just really depends on like what I'm doing out in the sun, how long I'm going to be out in the sun. That's just kind of like my 2 cents. Some people I've heard like use vitamin E after sun exposure or before sun exposure. I personally don't do that. I may experiment a little bit with it this year. But yeah, it's mostly what we're doing internally, honestly. What can cause bloating during ovulation? Estrogen can make like the liver and the gut kind of sluggish. So estrogen spikes right before we ovulate. So that can just make digestion sluggish. But for people who really like their liver and gallbladder needs to be supported a little bit, that can also cause some like just sluggish digestion. Thanks for doing this live. What's a good and affordable filter for my tap water? I think that clearly filtered filters are fairly priced for the most part, and they do a decent job. Hey, Jess, so glad you're back. So I'm 9 months into my healing journey and seem to have hit a plateau, especially with raising my temps. What would be the first place you would start to change things up? It just depends on factors. So, for example, if you're somebody that's like very type A, stressed out, perfectionist, probably would be a good idea to go in like an emotional direction. Like, okay, I think I need to get to like the root cause emotionally of my stress. So, like, I really like emotional freedom techniques. Some people prefer therapy. Some people, like to do a little bit of like both. It's personal preference, but I personally have seen so much benefit from EFT. Or if you're somebody that's like living in a moldy home, then maybe that's the direction you need to go. So it really just depends, like what are possible stressors, and if like, okay, there's not a nutritional stressor, like what is a possible other stressor that is maybe driving some stress. And that's where like we want to start, or where we want to go next, I should say. And also sometimes I think we like baby ourselves too much. So some people are like, they've done their nourishing, they've gotten their body out of stress, and then they're like afraid to add in strength training or afraid to add in like some good stressors. You know what I mean? Like some exercise or, whatever it might be. And so those are the people that sometimes really benefit from like getting out and doing more and like letting go of the reins a little bit. And sometimes like adding in some exercise. So, and doing some more things for enjoyment. So it just really depends on like what type of person we are and where we need to go. Had hyperlactin for about 4 months ago in irregular cycles. It's regulated now. Does this mean that my levels are probably fine, or would it be smart to get retested? I don't know. What does your gut tell you? I know beef liver should be best taken away from whole food vitamin C, but what about orange juice, eating citrus? yeah, I mean, similarly, it's going to help your body absorb the iron better. Is this something to stress about? No. Like, I personally, what I do is always have my beef liver with my coffee in the morning. That way I know, like, I'm binding to some of the iron. I have my adrenal cocktail, which is like a scoop of Jigsaw adrenal cocktail in orange juice before my breakfast. So, like, it's close enough to orange juice, but do I stress about it? Negative. What do large blood clots and coming out in period indicate? That's a good thing to get checked out by your doctor. I want to encourage that. So we want to ask ourselves, like, are we bleeding heavier than our body can keep up with the clots? Some people say they're parasites. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm just like, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. But remember, our body has anticoagulants, so anti-clotting mechanisms. And when we're bleeding faster than our body can keep up with, we'll have clots. So that's, something to keep in mind. But it's a good idea to get them checked out just in case. Oats are the only bedtime snack meal that will help me sleep through the whole night. I've tried many other bedtime snacks, but they don't help. Why do you think oats is helping me sleep? Good job at finding a bedtime snack that works for you. I really encourage women to experiment and learn their body's best. Sometimes that slower digesting starch can be very helpful. Some people like to do like milk before bed or orange juice before bed, which is all good if that works for you. But sometimes that is too quick digesting and your body kind of runs out. That's like the most simplistic way to put it. By the time you get through your whole night's sleep. So for some people, maybe a slower digesting starch works really well. And I'm curious if you're adding like fats or things that are going to slow down digestion even more, that could be another possible reason. After doing 3-week round of oregano for fungal issues, what would you use next? I get freaked out by the names of other supplements you suggest for this. Oh, shoot, I lost myself. Dang it. You guys know it always happens like one time where I like go to scroll and then it just like goes to the very bottom and I'm like, freak. Where did it go? I know it was Amber's question. Let's see. Okay. I get freaked out by the names of the other supplements you suggest for this. What would you do next if not solved? Fungal issues are not going to just be solved by a supplement. I think we have to really learn to acknowledge that it's a systemic, there are multiple imbalances at play. Copper is what helps us get control of pathogens, including fungus. So we need to make sure that we are working towards mineral balance. So we're getting magnesium, we're getting, our sodium and potassium, we're getting our regular vitamin A, we're getting our whole foods vitamin C. Those are important that are going to help us deal with it over time, because if we allow our copper to become more bioavailable, remember, copper is in and of itself antifungal. And so once copper becomes more bioavailable and the body can use it, that's awesome. Sometimes actually figuring out if we're iron overloaded can be really helpful. This is where like a full Monty iron panel can come in handy. So if somebody is really iron overloaded, this can be a contributing factor to fungus as well. So I think focusing on the root cause and actually like taking more time, while like maybe implementing some things to kind of keep the symptoms down can be really, really helpful. But yeah, I mean, one round of like any herb is not going to take care of a fungal issue that's been there for years. I know like some people could, especially some searching on the internet can make you think that, but I personally only found success from doing biotics research, dysbiocide and FC-Cytal. It really helped keep my symptoms down. And I did like 6 weeks on, 3 weeks off, 6 weeks on, 3 weeks off for a while I was dealing with my gut issues. And I find that it's probably one of my favorites. Have you heard anything about supplementing progesterone and it causing weight gain? Yeah, I think like a lot of times it's multiple factors. It's not just the progesterone. Like people are implementing so many changes at once and they want to like make the process go faster. And so they implement progesterone too. And progesterone can be a precursor to cortisol. So that's why I always say like, it's not always a great idea to just jump into progesterone. Sometimes it's not a good idea at all for some people. So it's really important to listen to our bodies and figure out if we truly feel better with it or if we do fine without it. But yeah, I mean, progesterone can, in theory, cause some weight gain. But is it Is it because of the progesterone or all the changes that we did at once? Do we need to add coconut oil and vinegar to the carrot salad for it to be effective? It's more effective that way. I know you guys like really don't like it, but I'm telling you, when you do it the right way, you actually see more benefit. This is where like everyone's like, can I please just do a regular raw carrot? And I'm like, sure. But then they're like in the same breath, they're like, I'm so bloated. And I'm just like you can't do a little coconut oil and vinegar? Lord help me. Lord help me. If you were pregnant, would you drink aloe vera juice for minerals? Thank you, Jess. I'm so happy to see you back. Probably not, just because it does have kind of like a laxative effect. I would focus on some other like more whole foods. If seeds have anti-nutrients, should we try to stay away from too many fruits with seeds like strawberries, kiwis, etc.? Again, do you want to stress about every little detail of your life or no? I personally don't like to. There are some people in this realm of thinking that are like, only eat tropical fruits, only papaya, and only this. And I'm just like, so I personally don't stress about it. But some people do find that like strawberries and kiwis and stuff like that do irritate their gut a little bit more. If that's you, then maybe pay attention to it and, you know, maybe choose like the cooked versions of those foods. But if it's not an issue, like I just encourage people to not make an issue out of things that aren't an issue. Would it be okay to continue vitamin E through period? Not sure if it's a good time to take a break for a couple days. I mean, I don't really like treat myself any different while I'm on my period. But some people like to do that. I truly like, I think everyone's just different in what they choose, but I personally don't stop mine. Following your advice, I feel so much better. Basal body temperature rising, my feet are warmer, but sometimes I still feel weak, hypothyroid. Should I keep going or is it smart to support with meds? I think that's really up to you. Are you really being real with yourself about getting like those minerals? Because I think some people are just like, oh, I'm like nourishing, but they're not like diving a little bit deeper and figuring out like some of the support that they need. So that's where like it can be really helpful to kind of make sure we're getting all the nutrients that we need and we're not missing out on anything just because we're not like, we just are not aware that we're not intaking, for example, like enough vitamin C or enough magnesium or enough sodium and potassium. Those are things that are really important when we're dealing with hormone imbalances. Hi, Jess. I got my Dutch test results back, and my melatonin levels came back at 742.2 nanograms per milliliter. I'm assuming. I've never taken melatonin supplements, so what could be a cause? Well, I believe melatonin is mostly in the gut, as well as I think a little bit in the pineal gland. So I would be curious as to like what's going on in the gut, or because that's usually when people have gut issues, their melatonin is a bit low. But man, I've never heard of melatonin being that high. That's high. Are raw dairy inflammatory too? Do you recommend introduce raw dairy when trying to heal really bad leaky gut, autoimmune, or wait till gut is healed first? Why is it that nature provides milk to babies as their first food when they are born with leaky guts and they have zero immune system? That's my question for you, because it's so inflammatory. What slightly lower dose vitamin E would you suggest? I'm taking Life right now. I personally just like take it every other day, or I think Life Extensions is a little bit lower. I think most are going to be that like 400 IU, I believe, is what Life's is. I can't remember. It's not that it's like I need to check again now, because I know he changed the formula pretty recently. But I think the blend of tocopherols that he has are a little bit more powerful, and so some people respond differently to them. North American Urban Spice Co.'s Purely E can sometimes be tolerated a little bit better. But yeah, I don't know of any like lower dose supplements that are vitamin E. Is it okay to continue to use a toothpaste with carrageenan in it? I don't stress about that stuff. Like seriously, I don't. I mean, obviously if we're reacting to something or it's bothering us, then sure, but I don't stress about that stuff. I see so many influencers diagnosed with unexplained infertility despite claiming to ovulate regularly. What could be a real cause behind this? Well, we need to ask ourselves, like, just because someone can like get pregnant, does it mean that they can carry a healthy pregnancy or produce a healthy baby? Remember, we have a download of minerals. So we give 10% of our minerals to each child. And if we don't replenish that, then the next baby gets less and less, and so on and so forth. Another thing to kind of keep in mind is that, you know, the body is really smart. It's trying to protect you and it's trying to protect your future child. So it's not dumb. It's not gonna be like, oh, we don't have anything to give, and so we're just gonna give some more, like your body knows. And so I would just, encourage people to ask themselves, like, why do we keep assuming that babies are built from thin air? Like, are you built from thin air? Like, I'm not. My mom gave me a ton of copper and vitamin A, and she, built my bones and my skin. And so that doesn't that rapid development of cells doesn't just happen by magic. And so that's where people just I don't think are getting it. And I know women want to have a child. I understand that part. But I just think that sometimes women just treat themselves like trash. And then when they're ready to have a baby, they're just like, I'm ready to have a baby. And then they don't understand why their body's not ready to build a baby. And maybe it's because we ran off of 300 calories and drank coffee on an empty stomach, 5 cups of coffee, and stressed ourselves the hell out for 5 years beforehand. You know what I mean? So that's kind of just an alternate way I look at it. I was wondering if iron found in food naturally and not added. Okay, of course. We're talking about this non-organic fortified iron. Do you think spring allergies are caused mostly by gut health or other things? Pesticides might have been so bad this year, but I've been eating pro-metabolic for about 6 months now. I think they're caused mostly by histamine, which histamine can be driven up by gut issues, mineral imbalances mostly, and then estrogen can also drive histamine up. So, but yeah, I think it's mostly histamine. Hi, Jess. In a different Q&A, you mentioned an oil used for eyebrow growth. Can you explain what oil that is and how you use it? It was just progesterone oil with vitamin E, and I usually mix that with a little bit of castor oil. Some people say black castor oil is good for hair growth. I've never tried it before, but it makes me wonder because castor oil is really good at increasing quercetin, and quercetin is an antihistamine and an iron chelator. Isn't that interesting? So I just, I find stuff fascinating that things that have been used for a long time or thousands of years, people are like, oh, castor oil works great for hair growth. And you're like, but why? And they're like, oh, it's because the essential fatty acids in it. And I'm like, really? But come to find out that it's actually helping metabolic processes. I'm just mind blown. Any ideas what a rash on lower abdomen can mean and what to do about it? Thanks for sharing your knowledge. I mean, again, with stuff like that, I personally track patterns. So does it come up during a time of my cycle? Does it come up when I'm stressed? Does it come up when I eat a certain food? When do I notice it's at its worst? Those are things that I would be asking myself to trying to figure out what's the problem. My period is going on 11 days. This is extremely unusual. I've been super stressed out. How long would you wait before consulting a doctor? What are some red flags that I should look for? I would be, I think it's if you're worried about it, it's a good idea to go get it checked out. If you're here asking me on the internet, it's probably a good idea to get it checked out. This may be overthinking, but would you look into be concerned about swimming in a lake regularly and the mineral content of the lake? Not sure if this is a realistic concern, what to look for. No. I mean, chlorinated pools, yeah. A lake, I mean, no. If DHEA levels are low for my age and been eating pro-metabolic for a while, have all the symptoms for it, would you recommend taking a small dose of DHEA? I'm a 21-year-old male. You should ask yourself why your DHEA is low. I mean, supplementing it doesn't fix the why behind it being low. That's the important thing to remember is supplementing a hormone does not fix why it's low. And so, yeah, it might help you feel better, right? You might be able to make it's a precursor, so you might be able to make more estrogen or testosterone. But oftentimes DHEA is low because the adrenals are trashed. And when the adrenals are trashed, the body is really stressed out. And so when the body's really stressed out, we are more likely to turn DHEA into estrogen. And so therefore, when people supplement DHEA when they're stressed out, they just start turning all that crap to estrogen. And so it's really important to just ask ourselves and like take a step back, like why is it so, why is it so low? And oftentimes it's vitamin C, potassium, and sodium. Like the adrenals just have a high affinity for those minerals and nutrients. And when they don't have them, they're gonna be very particular about when they make hormones. Any thoughts on large amount of women's periods being affected around people? I'm not gonna even say the word. Yes, of course I have thoughts on it. Not sure if it's related, but I noticed my temps increased once I stopped taking my daily prenatal, which does have some iron in it. Not yet. Yeah. If you don't follow Innate Functional Nutrition or my friend Lauren, highly recommend. She has like so much great information on like prenatals and all that kind of stuff. Like mind blown. I agree that omega subs are not good, but interesting, I have 12 siblings, and my mom said that when she took omegas, when those children were smarter. LOL. Oh, that's funny. Sometimes I eat the raw cookie dough, just a small bite from the B vitamin cookies that I store in the fridge. Is this a bad idea because of the egg in the batter? I don't know. I personally eat like 3 raw eggs a day and I'm still alive, but that's just me. What is the best temperature tracker that can keep track while sleeping? Worried about Bluetooth. I personally use the temp drop, and the temp drop syncs in the morning. So you actually have to physically sync it. So I wear it at night. I turn it on, wear it at night. And yeah, it's battery operated. So it has like a little battery in it, but it's collecting data all night long. And then I take it off in the morning and actually have to sync it to my phone. So it doesn't like automatically sync all night long. You actually have to like push on a button on your phone that says sync and then hold down the button on the temp drop while it's syncing. So it doesn't automatically sync. You have to manually sync it. So that's the nice thing about like the temp drop that I like, is it's not constantly connecting with your phone. Is breast pain after ovulation a sign of progesterone or estrogen dominance? It just depends on like what's going on with you. I don't like really focus too much on symptoms in the sense of like trying to use symptoms to figure out imbalances, because that just like will take us to a dead end really fast. What is a good alternative for the mitigate stress master mineral drink I like in Canada and cannot get it? I personally would just make my own. Like I make my own magnesium bicarbonate, just getting like a carbonated water, like soda stream type deal, and like a soda maker, and then like magnesium hydroxide powder, or Pristine Hydro has like powder you can buy to add to the carbonated water. I once heard you say that there's a reason for freckles. Can you expand on it and how to protect from them? I always thought it was genetic. Well, mom passes us iron overload. So, and I shouldn't say all freckles. I think there are some people that have like perfectly round freckles. And then I notice that I get like weird sun freckles that show up. Like I get more and more every year, which is that normal? Probably not. So, after I learned about lipofuscin, which is like polyunsaturated fats oxidizing with iron, I started to say like, and knowing that it causes like age spots and liver spots, I started saying like, I wonder if that's what freckles are too, and like oxidation just happening. And so I do think it has something to do with like oxidation and just like being iron overloaded. And I don't know how to fix it. Like, I don't know if I can reverse my freckling. I can deal with like the oxidation in my body and work on my iron overload, which I'm definitely iron overloaded, because I have had a horrible naturopathic doctor put me on a crap ton of iron at one point in my life. So, it's just one of those things where I think it has to do with like oxidation, but specifically having to do with iron. Also, what do you think of Evian water? I mean, I don't really have thoughts on Evian water. Like, I don't know much about it. In Canada, all milk is pasteurized and have at least vitamin D3 added to it. Would you say the benefits outweigh the negatives? What can I do to combat the synthetic vitamin D3? I would just be curious as to like how much is added to it. Like, is there any alternative, like goat's milk or sheep's milk or anything like that? I would just try to find a way around it if possible. What would you suggest for sunscreen if spending extended periods of time in direct sunlight? Thanks. I mean, I would just, I don't really know a ton about sunscreens. I know that Stephanie at Cosmo Beauty talks about Pipette, which is the brand. I don't know much about it again, but I think she talks about it a lot. And then the Skincare Edit, I think she also has like a few blog posts on sunscreen, and she's like also very PUFA aware. Do you have any test recommendations for parasites? I mean, no test is going to be perfect and to find parasites. I mean, yeah, GI map can sense some, but all tests are going to test for a few, you know? So no, there is no perfect test. What are the best bedtime snack ideas? I mean, cottage cheese and fruit, cottage cheese and jam, cheese and honey. Sometimes people will do like some deli meat and melon. Some people like to just do like a cup of milk or glass of milk. Ice cream can be a good bedtime snack for some people. I mean, anything your heart desires. Just you want it to have some carbohydrates, some fat, a little bit of protein. Any moisture recommendations that aren't tallow or coconut oil? I've been using Silk by Forever Healthy Hair, which I like. I really like the body butter that is jojoba oil and tallow from, what's it called? Fancy Farm Skincare. White Oak Pastures also has a good one. Yeah, but those are all like, some of those are tallow based. I know that Silk by Forever Healthy Hair is a ghee based one. But no, I mean, Ancient Minerals Magnesium Lotion is like decent if you're like into that kind of thing. I have a lingering dry patch on my neck. Started out as a red itchy rash about a year ago, and it's not red, but has a slightly dry texture. Ideas what kind of thing could cause this? I mean, no. Of course, like, you know, there can be so many factors for like behind skin issues. I'm not going to say like no, but I'm just saying like it could be 1,000 things. And instead of saying like what's causing this, it's kind of like what imbalances have occurred. Like when did it start? When does it get worse? When does it get better? Like, is it affected by my cycle, the seasons, like all that kind of stuff. I mean, asking me these questions, like having me guess off the top of my head is like, I don't know. Plus, like, you know, I know you guys are trying to like figure out your issues, but it's a good idea to get stuff checked out too. Ideas for chapstick, how to moisturize lip, as well as lip color options. I mean, I personally like to use like lipsticks to stain my lips and then just use chapstick over it. So like I have a few lipstick colors from Beauty Counter, and I just like dab my finger on the lipstick and like dab it on my lips, and then like just to stain them. I don't like the feel of like lipstick, obviously, unless I'm going out or something. And then I just put like Fancy Farm Skincare lip balm over it. I really like Badger Balm, or I use Plump by Forever Healthy Hair. I thought your body will give the baby all the necessary minerals no matter how much it has to take from the woman. It will take what it needs. If you have it. I mean, a lot of women don't have what it needs. So the baby will take as much as it can, obviously. But some women just literally don't have what it takes. Like you need a good amount of vitamin A and a good amount of copper and a good amount of, you know, like bioavailable iron. So we iron download. So it's just one of those things where like a lot of people just don't realize like, yes, the body will give the baby what it takes if it has it. And many women are trying to go into a pregnancy depleted, completely depleted. Is it safe to drink red raspberry leaf tea daily? I believe so. I do it pretty regularly. I think a lot of women do, but of course, like do your own research on that. How long does it take to restore minerals for an HTMA? Thinking potassium, I've heard it can take 1 to 2 years. Oh yeah, like it can take some time. But if you look at that as like a frustrating thing or discouraging, just like remember how long did it take to get to that place? Like a lot of times, a lot of us are actually born minerally depleted. So it's just important to kind of like keep things in perspective. Like 1 to 2 years is actually not that long in comparison with how long it took us to get to a place. Do you worry about sodium potassium ratio over salting your foods? I crave salt and like to use it a lot, but sometimes up to 5,000 milligrams, but also get around 5 to 6,000 milligrams of potassium per day. Do I worry about sodium potassium ratio over salting my foods? No. I listen to my body, and like, remember, like, our body doesn't think in numbers. It's not like, oh man, she got like 5,000 milligrams of sodium today and 6,000 milligrams of potassium. Like, oh shoot, like we are sometimes, I think, like, in a sense, dumber than our bodies. Like, we think of things in very specific terms, whereas our body is way beyond our greatest imagining. And so, like, I personally don't stress about stuff like that. I know that magnesium oil is effective, but it tends to cause a rash as soon as after I spray it on my skin. What might cause this problem? Am I taking too much, or should I change the product? Probably change the product. A lot of people are sensitive to magnesium, like, topically, and it can sometimes just be like they're sensitive to that product. Some people are just like don't do well with the oil. For some people that don't do well with the oils, the gels and the lotions tend to work better. So yeah, but you're not alone. Like, I have to be very careful to only spray it on my stomach. That's the only place I can tolerate it. If you like accidentally get a little bit on your boobs or like your chest, it's like burning, like it feels like flames of fire. Still dealing with nightly wakings. Will that affect my waking AM temp? I ovulate and the temps are the same as before ovulation. Basing ovulation on vaginal fluid, energy, and sex drive. On vaginal fluid, energy, and sex drive. Yeah, I mean, it can affect our waking temps, but how long are you waking up? Is it like for 30 minutes to an hour, or like a quick wake up to pee? Most people wake up to pee or have a quick wake up. And I personally compare it to the nights that I don't wake up, and I don't see a big difference, maybe like a 0.2 degrees or something. But I mean, it just depends on you. I would be tracking all factors, but because if your nightly wake ups are your normal, then that might be more reliable than if you were just waking up occasionally, if that makes sense. Do you believe enameled cast iron is safe to cook with? I mean, there's no perfect pans, but I think it's probably one of the better options. Hey, Jess, wondering how many years you were keto carnivore, how many years it took you to get to a point of feeling pretty good most days after going pro-metabolic? Yeah, so I was paleo for probably like 3 or 4 years, I want to say. That was just like normal paleo. So I wasn't really like, I had gone from like a completely standard American diet to a more like with a heavy like veganish emphasis to, which was like crappy, like Morningstar patties and stuff like that. That was like when I was a teenager. And then I went paleo probably for like a good 3 to 4 years and was not restricting anything. And like not carbs, like I just ate a plethora of anything that was like approved. And then after that, I went like lower carb paleo. So I started being conscious of my carbs for, I want to say like a year-ish. And then I went keto, and that was like almost a year-ish. And then like a part of that time was like me starting to experiment with carnivore. Like a lot of these diets kind of like rolled into themselves because I would start experimenting with one thing and then like, finally move over. Carnivore, I could only sustain for like, I think it was like 2 or 3 months. And then I went back to like kind of keto, kind of paleo, couldn't really like, and then there was a period of time where I just like was everything. Like that was when I was like learning about pro-metabolic eating, but couldn't like go all in. I didn't know enough. And so I would say that like all in all, like paleo, keto, low carb, I spent like 6 to 7 years, or 6 to 7, 5 to 6. I mean, yeah, somewhere around there. And then it took me like a full year to really like feel okay pro-metabolic. But a whole, like I would say like, I felt pretty good pro-metabolic for the past like year and a half. So that's kind of like my journey. But yeah, I mean, I could be a little bit like wrong on some of the timelines because I truly wish I remember and kept a journal, but you don't really like keep track of those things. And now I wish like I was like, oh, I spent like this time to this time on this and this time to this time on this. Like I can't truly remember. because it was so much time. Like I did a lot of years of restrictive dieting. Your thoughts on male vasectomies for their health? I mean, honestly, the fact that some of those grow back tells me everything I need to know. And from a hormone perspective, there's not a lot of research to like definitively say what's going on, but if you read a lot of forums and like men's experience with it, I don't mess with nature. You know what I mean? Like I don't like to mess with it. Some of your guys' questions are so off the wall. She's more of a nutritionist on women's health. How can she help you with your vasectomy, dude? Yeah, exactly. Like you guys, I am a nutritionist. I'm looking at things in terms of stress, minerals, nutrition. I, of course, think that a lot of factors can be stressors, but, I don't know about every single topic. What's a realistic time frame for healing the metabolism? You guys ask this all the time, and I just think it's such a weird question because who knows? Like, to say I've healed my metabolism, now I can move on with my life. Like, do we ever truly arrive there? I mean, we're constantly supporting our metabolism and as we go through seasons of life, you know what I mean? What do you think could cause gray patches of the skin on the face? I had them on the sides of my chin, but twice I had breakouts over those exact spots. During each breakout, the gray noticeably faded, almost gone now. Seems like something mobilized. That's really interesting. I mean, I don't know, but that is really a really fascinating experience. Hi, should I avoid canola vegetable oil completely, or is it all right every now and then? Well, I mean, I personally avoid it as much as I possibly can, but don't stress about it when I, get exposed to it once in a while. Do you think taking hydrocortisone or cortisone orally, which is basically cortisol for a year, can cause permanent damage to the adrenals body? Could definitely stress the adrenals out. I mean, that much is true. Permanent damage? I don't know. I'm sure some people on the internet would say that. I personally just think it's all about figuring out what type of stress it caused and, fixing that. Because all stress is mineral stress. Hi, what are your thoughts on Vitex? I sometimes like it. I mean, I think sometimes it's just a Band-Aid. So it's not something that I really recommend very often because it can raise LH levels. And so for everyone, everyone's different. Some people have high LH, some people have low, but some people swear by it. I just personally think I'm just neutral on the topic. Until my last cycle, I felt fine and follicular, but crummy and luteal. This month, it was the reverse. This was also my first ovulation without any bleeding. Haven't added anything new. Thoughts? It's interesting that you say that, Teresa, because a lot of women have been telling me that as they go through their quote-unquote healing journey or starting to restore their hormones and metabolism, they go through this shift where they felt really bad during their luteal, and then luteal starts to get better, and ovulation and follicular starts to be rough. It's a really interesting pattern that I've been observing, and a lot of women have been reporting to me. Do I know why? Not necessarily. I mean, it could be that estrogen starts to rise post-period, and you're now ovulating, so you're making progesterone. That could be a factor. But yeah, it is really just very interesting. And obviously, oftentimes the things that help them with the luteal phase usually helps them with the follicular as well. It just takes time. Any tips for grinding teeth or hiccups? Yeah, I mean, tension and stress in the chest and diaphragm, and also proper tongue placement. Look into mewing, MEWING. Do you think there are any issues with Metabolic B3, given that it's an isolated nutrient and not a naturally occurring complex? If so, do you think it could be paired with something to balance it out? Niacinamide, I mean, it can be a really helpful supplement for a lot of people. Would I just high dose it long term? Probably not. Just because when we start to take isolated supplements out of context, they can often cause more imbalances. Not for everyone, but for some people. So this is why sticking to whole real foods can sometimes be a better option for people who are just so imbalanced they don't know which way is up and which way is down. To say is it going to be problematic? I don't know. I've taken niacinamide in the past. It's kind of fun to experiment with, especially when you're taking your blood glucose after a meal. But yeah, I mean, any isolated nutrient can cause problems. Is working out during your period too stressful for the body? I don't know. You tell me. Is it too stressful for your body? Because everyone's coming in at a different place. Like if you're in a really depleted state, it's probably not a great idea to be working out while we're actively bleeding. If we're completely nourished, our metabolism is balanced, we feel really good, then we're probably fine. Like it just depends. And at the end of the day, it's just really about listening to the body. I've been having on and off again bleeds, sometimes ovulating, sometimes not. Right now, I'm not having hot flashes again, digestion issues too, not sleeping. How to lower stress with these issues? I mean, are you eating regularly, eating enough protein, carb, and fat, eating every 3 to 4 hours, getting plenty of sleep, like just taking care of yourself, getting enough sunlight? Like those would be the questions I would ask. What's a good aspirin to K2 ratio? I've been taking both, but I'm on my period right now, and there's a bit of clotting this time. I think like Dr. Pete says, 1 milligram of K2 to, I think, like a regular 325 milligrams of aspirin. I think that's what he says, but that's kind of what I go by personally. I watched your highlights on pregnancy, breastfeeding, but I still have hyperlactin 1 year after stopping breastfeeding. I'm trying so hard to heal through eating pro-metabolic. Awesome. You know, sometimes it just takes time to get that stress down, and calcium is really important, as well as fat-soluble vitamins. What do you suggest for minerals to add into the Berkey water? I like Aussie minerals, Aussie trace minerals, or trace minerals research minerals drops, like just some trace minerals. I had my period on the same day each month for like 6 months, but now I'm 7 days late with all negative pregnancy tests. Is it normal to still have late periods? I don't know. Are you stressed? Did you ovulate late? Like, I don't know. Like some people just like freak out about every little thing. And like, I just personally take it all as data. Like if I have a late period, I ask myself, like, did I ovulate late? Was I stressed this month? Like, cause usually if our period's coming late, our ovulation came late. It's not like our luteal phase just lasts 7 days longer. It's usually, or did I skip an ovulation? You know, like those are things we want to be asking ourselves. Hi, Jess. Okay, I just can't do oysters. They literally make me gag. What is the oyster supplement you talked about before? It's called Deep Blue Health, and it's in my link on, like, in my bio on Instagram. It's in my affiliate highlights on Instagram, and then if you are in Fully Nourished, it's also in like the resources guides. So that's a good place to find it, and we're actually working on getting like all the affiliate stuff up on the website. So that will come soon. I've heard people refer to gluconeogenesis as an inflammatory process, but it raises cortisol, which is anti-inflammatory. Do they affect different areas, or do they just mask each other? Well, I think it's important to understand that there can be like things in the body that are going on that are pro-inflammatory and have something that's suppressing inflammation. Suppressing and lowering are two different things. You can be super inflamed and suppressing it, so artificially pushing the symptoms down, and still be inflamed. You get what I'm saying? So you might feel like, oh, my symptoms of inflammation are getting better, but the factors driving inflammation are getting worse. I hope that makes sense. Like, yes, cortisol is an inflammation suppressor. It does not get rid of inflammation. And in reality, eating yourself alive is inflammatory. It causes more metabolic distress. I hope that makes sense. Oh, by the way, I've been using a tallow-based moisturizer for a couple weeks, and it is rocking my world. My skin has never looked better. I know, like once you go tallow, you can never go to anything else. It's unreal. Hey, Jess, I got PCOS and I got my period 2 weeks ago, but it won't stop. And my doctor told me to take 2 contraceptive pills, but I get depressed when I take them. What can I do? Guys, I am not a doctor, so those are not questions that I should be answering or you guys should be asking me. I get migraines with aura at least once a month around my cycle. Any tips on what can help with that besides birth control? Well, high estrogen and blood sugar issues can definitely drive estrogen issue or migraines. I highly recommend reading my post on like the raw carrot salad and how like Dr. Ray Peat had migraines, and so he therefore like started implementing the raw carrot salad every day. But it's really about supporting detoxification. There are so many factors, but if something's cyclical, it's obviously being caused by that influx of hormones. Hi, can you talk about high potassium from blood work? Is that an issue or connect to anything? Well, you know, is the body pulling potassium from the cells into the blood? Because sometimes that can happen, and it's important to like check in with that. And that oftentimes can happen under stress. Okay, I'm going to answer like a couple more questions and then call it quits because we've been on for about an hour 30. I just had a pain-free period. Woohoo! But I'm now in the beginning of the follicular phase and I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety, insomnia, and a rapid heartbeat. Do you know what could be the cause of this? I mean, you guys sometimes are asking the wrong question. Like, what could be the cause of this? How am I going to know what could be the cause of this? But some things that we want to check in with is assessing our stress. So were we nourishing during our period? Like, did we make sure we were balancing our blood sugar and replenishing our minerals? And have we been stressed lately? Are there any factors that could have shifted or changed? Like, we really want to be assessing, like, is there something that maybe could be driving this that is a new change or a stressor, even if it's something small? Is it possible? And what can we do to mitigate the effects of that? I'm new to your work. What are the top things that I should know about you and your channel? The top things, I'm all about helping women learn how to nourish their bodies so that they can balance their hormones and live their best life. Was that a good little summary? If you're on Instagram, it might be a good idea to go to my start here highlight. Also, I recently read about the new I know what you're saying and how they can, yes, and some have had their affected just by being around. Oh, interesting. That's very interesting. Curious. My thoughts? You guys know I don't approach the subject just because what the work I do here is too valuable to have it taken away from you guys. But I definitely have thoughts. What would be your advice to someone wanting to supplement with minerals from food sources, but they struggle with kidney problems? My advice would be to work very closely with a doctor, and then also just do things that make the most sense. So, for example, if we're already going to eat carbohydrates and we focus on getting some carbohydrates from more potassium-rich or mineral-rich sources, focusing more on being slow and steady and also eating more whole foods than anything else, and being very careful with supplements and not going full force. I think some people think they have to go all or nothing, and I think that is can be a dangerous mindset, especially for someone who's struggling with other issues. Hey Jess, thoughts on salmonella from raw eggs? I've been doing raw animal foods for a while and got scared of eggs when I got salmonella from one. I personally wash the outside of my eggs when I do them raw with soap and water. And I try to get the most high quality ones. If I'm not getting high quality eggs, then I will cook them. So that's kind of my mindset. But that is a good point. It's important to be careful. For example, it's probably not a good idea to eat raw oysters from some shady oyster place. You know what I mean? It's similar with any foods. We have to kind of use our common sense and make the best decision that seems right for us. Also, what internally causes dandruff when all external factors are considered? Usually it's dandruff can oftentimes be associated with fungal issues. I see it a lot with just people who have fungal issues oftentimes have skin stuff. Do you have any opinion on Reiki therapy? Have you heard anything about it? It's energy healing, and I hope it can be beneficial. Yeah, I've heard about it. It's not really my thing. I've pretty much done everything under the sun. If I haven't, I will. It's not personally my thing, but some people really enjoy it. Is it possible? And I think energy stuff and really working on stored trauma can be very helpful. One thing that I have found is so cool is the sound bath therapy. I went to a massage therapist who did the sound, the bowls. I wish I was more eloquent, but it was this vibration in the room, and I could feel it just de-stressing my body. It was so interesting. Is it possible for progesterone you help men regrow hair? My husband all of a sudden lost a ton of hair after college and has been working on regrowing. Thanks for all you're doing. I wonder if it's possible. I know I've heard of a lot of women using their red lights on their husbands to regrow hair, and they said that has been helping for some women. Yeah, but I'm curious about progesterone. I'm honestly not sure. Hi, Jess. When do you recommend testing for mold? Does treating it require provider's help? Any test that's good? this is not my forte. I actually recommend checking out PJ Harlow Wellness. She does a lot of like mold stuff, and I don't agree with everything that she does, like glutathione and like all that crap. Like I'm not like into that kind of stuff, but she has some good good information on the testing, like the ERMI, I think it's called ERMI. And then also, honestly, I actually have never seen this PJ Harlow Wellness's face, so I'm assuming it's a she because like a lot of the branding is pink, but I could be wrong, so I should just say that. I'm just using she. And then there's a lot of good ERMI information about the ERMI and like some practical tips. She's posted about like some mop ideas, just like preventing mold growth in the home. But I think she recommends the ERMI. But yeah, I would check out her stuff. I know Strong Sisters have been going through like a mold journey with her, and it's been really interesting. What do you suggest for histamine? Well, we got to get to the root of the histamine issues, which I know you guys hate when I say this, but it's like, you got to look at it this way. Like, we have histamine issues from deep internal imbalances. Like histamine, breaking down histamine is a job that our body should well be able to do. And when it can't do it, it means it doesn't have the things it needs to do it. That's simply it. And so over time, we may have these histamine symptoms, and we can like do some things to help us deal with the quality of life that's taken away from dealing with them. But underneath the surface, we need to actually be working on the causative factors that are driving our inability to break down histamine, which is oftentimes mineral imbalances and nutrient imbalances and stress and estrogen and all that kind of stuff. And so like I like to use like castor oil packs, and the supplement called Histablock can be very helpful for like working on symptoms, but it doesn't fix histamine. Whereas, and that's actually like interesting because I don't know if you noticed my neck is red today, and I've been dealing with some like histamine type issues as well. So I've been working on this as well with castor oil packs, coffee enemas, and Histablock, which I really like. I think it's called Nature's Sunshine or Nature's Answer. That's the brand. But all the while, you know, I'm working on whole foods vitamin C, magnesium, B vitamins, vitamin A from liver and other sources. And that is actually how we get to the root cause of things. Because lowering histamine is not really the goal. It's about actually breaking it down, which the body knows how to do. I started eating dairy again a month ago, mostly locally sourced and raw, and I'm still breaking out pretty badly on my chin. How long does this last? Does this acne go away? Is it just because of the dairy, or did you have acne beforehand? Some people like need to make sure they're doing the raw carrot salad as well, like working on bacteria in the gut. Because a lot of people already have bacteria overgrowth, and so like the dairy expresses that problem, but it doesn't actually, it's not causing the problem. All right, guys. I'll do, and I should say I have a whole video on histamine on this YouTube channel and also IGTV episode. So wherever you like to watch things. I know you've talked about aspirin before, but what are the benefits of taking it, or what signs show that someone may benefit from taking it? This is like pretty popular in the Ray Peat community. And so he has an article on his website about aspirin. I'm personally like neutral on the subject. I've tried it. I go through phases where I don't take it. Like I haven't taken it in a while now. So like I'm more neutral on the subject. Like I find that like some people find that it works really well for them, and some people like they don't see any difference at all. I'll occasionally like put it back in just from time to time, but I haven't been taking it regularly lately. But yeah, if you want to read his article on it, go to his website. I think it's just raypeat.com. Okay, hi again. Let's see. Speaking of cast iron pans, I've been using only those consistently for over a year. Is that not a great thing? It just depends. Like if we're already iron overloaded, sometimes cast iron pans can just contribute to more iron overload. So it just really depends on our situation. Hi, I recently heard about the new blank shedding. Yeah. I hear you. I read your stuff. I of course have thoughts. But because I care so much about what I do here for you guys, and I think that my work's important, I don't want it to get shut down. And so that's a subject I just don't talk about for that reason. But know that I do have thoughts. It's just I'm not going to share them here. Where can we pre-submit questions? I can't always make it live. Love your content and you. I sometimes will get around to the pre-submitted. I sometimes don't. A lot of people just send a DM, and my assistant will usually screenshot them and send them over to me. Are your suggestions for women's health similar to what you'd recommend for men, or do they need specific things too? I mean, yeah, for the most part, obviously, like they don't have a monthly cycle, they have a daily cycle. So their infradian rhythm actually starts in the morning. Their testosterone is at its highest, and then over the course of the day, it will decline. But stress messes with their stuff too. They're a little bit more resilient to stress because they don't have these huge cycle fluctuations like we do. And estrogen does make us a little less resilient to stress, amongst other things. Just our biology in particular is like, it's part of our strength. We're very, very sensitive to our environment. Just because, you know, we don't want our body to be reproducing if there's not enough things available to us. So it's just important to kind of keep that in mind. But yes, most of the things that I talk about do apply to men, just in a little bit of a different way. But they are sensitive to stress for sure. Hey there, I had 2 periods 2 weeks apart last month, having PCOS. That's super strange to me. What's your best guess on this one? Not a doctor, guys. So some of your guys' questions I just won't answer because either I don't know, or it's a question that's not like, you know, you guys, if you're having weird cycle symptoms, like I try to draw you guys back to, hey, what's the stressor? Where's the stress? What's the stressor? Like, is your job stressful? Is your relationship stressful? Did you go through a period where you weren't eating enough? Did you ovulate? Because remember, we ovulate and then 11 to 14 days or maybe a little longer later, our period comes. So most of the time, if we're bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, we're not ovulating. And so therefore, those are uterine bleeds. So why is our uterus shedding again and again? Why does it have so much lining to shed? Estrogen builds the lining, progesterone thins it. So we need to be assessing what are the stressors driving these issues, and not as much of like, what do I do or how do I fix this? Because I'm not a doctor. I don't do that. You need to figure that out for yourself, or go to your doctor and ask them that question if you want that fix. What's the best time of day to drink fat-soluble supplements? Drink fat-soluble supplements. Man. I've never heard of drinking fat-soluble supplements before. Are we talking about maybe like liquid, like vitamin K and stuff like that? I'm honestly not sure. Or like some like cod liver oil for vitamin A, like I'm not really sure. But the best time is with foods that contain fat, because we need bile and fat to absorb our fat-soluble vitamins. Jess, you should create a Telegram group to talk about those things you can't hear. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. I might do that. I might do that. Good job. Good suggestion. I'm going to maybe I'll talk to my team about it. Hey, Jess, I made your gelatin gummy recipe. How long does this last in the fridge, and how much do you eat per day? I mean, I don't know how long it lasts because I eat it so fast. I honestly like, I eat it so fast, I honestly don't know how long it lasts. Okay. Thank you guys so much for your awesome questions. I think I got through all of them, which is awesome. And I always appreciate your guys' time. It's always awesome to spend time with you guys. And I'll see you next Wednesday at the same time. All right. Bye, guys.